I'm pulling out all my files, right? I came over here and did the SATs. I did pretty good. Okay, I did really well on the SATs, did everything. I applied here. I didn't accept it. I just want you to tell me why not. So he goes through my files. He's like, you did pretty good. Honestly, I can't tell you why you weren't accepted. I was like, okay, well, would I be able to start at Queens College next semester? He's like, honestly, yeah, consider it done. He shook my hand. He's like, welcome to Queens College. I was like,
serious? Hey guys, Dr. Dale here. Really quick before we start this episode, I want to ask you to support our mission by doing one thing. Just subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast channel, whichever one you listen to. Just hit that subscribe button. The way our podcasts get out there is by you guys liking it, by subscribing, and of course by sharing as well. So if you do one of those things for us right now, we really appreciate it. We work very hard to make these episodes for you guys. We work very hard to get them out for you guys and just to try to uplift the entire community. So if you can help us out by doing one of those things, subscribe, share, or like every time. I really appreciate it. Love you guys. What is up, family? I'm Dr. Dale, the author of How to Raise a Doctor Wisdom from Parents Who Did It, the author of PreMed Mondays, the author of the Dr. Doc Children's Series, author of Black Men and White Coats, and the author of a new book I'm releasing probably maybe a month, 2 months. It's called Author and Expert. I get a lot of messages from you guys asking how I write these books, so I decided to write a book teaching you how I write these books. So super excited about that. Going to be dropping here in a couple months. We'll put some links down below. Click on the links, learn more about those books, get you a copy, and you listen to the Black Men and White Coats podcast, a place where Black clinicians have the platform to share their stories with listeners like you. Super excited about today's guest, but before I introduce him, let me say a couple of reminders. Reminder number one. And actually, I need to pull up here on my phone, but I'm actually about to announce this week's MCAT winner. So you guys know we're paying for MCATs, right? We're paying for people's MCATs, and this week's winner is.
A fourth-year biology pre-medicine student at the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. When I become a doctor, I will make the field of medicine better, first and foremost by becoming a doctor. We live in a time where representation means everything, and unfortunately, Black men have been underrepresented as physicians. I personally didn't meet a Black male physician until I was 18, maybe 19 years old, and I would love to be in a place where a young Black man can look at my story, look at my journey, and look at my triumphs, relate to that, feel inspired by that, and know that they can accomplish even greater things than I may accomplish one day. Also, I want to be in a place where I can bridge the gap in my community as far as healthcare, break some stigmas in my community, and be a resource to my community as far as healthcare. Thank you all for the scholarship opportunity, and the scholarship sown into my life will be sown into the many lives that I plan to serve along my journey. Thank you.
I'm super excited to give this to you because you're the first gentleman we're awarding this to, right? So we're giving it to two ladies the past couple of weeks, and it's giving it to you this week. So all you got to do is email us info@blackmenandwhitecoats.org, info@blackmenandwhitecoats.org. Let me know you got it. Shoot me an email, and we're going to pay for your MCAT. So congrats to you again, Chris. And just remind everybody, hey, we're paying for MCATs. Like, we're not joking. I'm not playing around. We got the money in the bank. I was going to say cutting checks, but we're not cutting checks. We're just putting the money in your account, right? So we're transferring funds into your account and paying for MCAT. So just check out blackmenandwhitecoats.org/MCAT, blackmenandwhitecoats.org/MCAT. What else do I got to say? So the movie, bmwcmovie.com, people are still buying the movie every single day. So the documentary, if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. We're loving it. The feedback and everything people are giving to us. Just had a partnership signed with the AMA, American Medical Association. So looking forward to doing a bunch of great stuff with the AMA, right? So now, what you are here for today is my guy, man. And we'll talk, we'll rap about it here in a second, but this is Joseph Haynes. Joseph Haynes. We're going to talk about his story, talk about his journey, but it's one of those strange things where it's like, I know him, but I don't know him. Well, first of all, what's up, Joe? How you doing, man? How you doing, Joseph?
Dale, good to see you, man. I'm doing really good, doing really well. Thank you for having me.
Tell me, go by Joe, Joseph? How should I refer?
Both, but most of the time, Joe.
Joe,
you can call.
Right. That's cool. My brother-in-law is Joe also, so cool. So, it's kind of strange because in this world, it's a small circle, and we're just before we came on air, we are just talking about like, man, we know each other, like we know each other, but we don't know each other. And I was like, we've met at conferences, and I'm pretty sure. So you're on diverse medicine or something.
You know, like you're saying, it's a small world, and I'm sure we've crossed paths in like multiple ways. Like we met at I know we met at, I believe, AMAC.
I remember. I specifically remember talking to you at a conference.
Yeah. I definitely remember talking to you. I definitely remember. I was like, oh, that's Dr. Dale. Let me introduce myself. And then I believe when you had launched PreMed Star, I was undergrad at the time, and then I got onto the platform, and then we actually even spoke for a little bit after that. And I believe you wanted to like check in to see, you know, how it was for me and what the experience was like for me. So we talked as well, like around that time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, like after I started med school, because I'm a third year now, well, finishing third year now, I'm sure like maybe early in first year, we like connected again at some point to talk about something.
Yeah, because I'm like, I definitely know you, but I kind of feel bad. But man, I definitely know you. That was one of those things. Like, I definitely know Joe. I definitely know. But anyways, man, hey, I just want to say thank you for being on the podcast, and we're gonna dive into your journey, man. We're gonna dive into your story because, you know, I really like having med students on here. And it's so crazy because, like you're saying, I remember you like interacting as a pre-med. Now you're about to start your last year of medical school.
Yeah, right? I'm excited. Ready, definitely ready.
Hey, and then you're about to be moving right on into residency. So it's just great. Time flies, and before you know it, man, you're gonna be where I'm at. You're gonna be, you know, full-fledged practicing, doing all that stuff, and you know, just proud of you what you're doing, man. So let's dive into your story. Let's dive into your story, and I'm gonna start off this question by start of the story by asking you a question.
Okay.
If you had to say one thing that somebody did for you, so mom, dad, siblings, friend, whoever, one thing that somebody did for you that really set you on the right path towards getting to where you are today, what would that one thing be?
All right. Honestly, if you ask me that like 3 times, you might get 3 different answers because there's a couple of things that that certainly like make that list. But what's coming to mind right now would have to be telling me the importance of mentorship. So when I was an undergrad, and just kind of like a little bit of background, I've always had an interest in clinical neurosciences, and I kind of knew I wanted to do neurosurgery. And when I was an undergrad at the time at Queens College in New York, the Minority Association of Pre-Medical Students had put on, shout out to MAPS. They had put on just an event, and there was a neurosurgery resident who came, Dr. Mbabike, I believe. I have to connect with her afterwards because I don't think she knows how impactful that interaction was. I was an undergrad. She's a Black neurosurgeon. I'm sure she's probably attending at this point. But you know, she gave a presentation about like medicine and neurosurgery, and I like ate it all up. And then at the end, literally last person to leave the room, I'm like helping her with her bags. I'm like, now I'll walk you to the car, you know, let's talk. And then I was like, listen, I really want to do neurosurgery. If there was like one thing, you know, you would do differently, you know, if you were in my shoes, like what would it be? And she was like, get mentorship early. She's like, you don't have to wait till medical school. You don't have to wait till you're in residency. She was like, get mentorship like early. She even said, hey, she was from Florida. She was like, I'm about to fly back. So, you know, she offers like, you know, function in that capacity, but I got the sense that she was saying I need to reach out to people closer to me. So after that, I remember it was like maybe in the middle of the week, that weekend, I wrote a draft of like a little bit of my background, where I'm from, interest in neurosurgery. And I sent out like 20 emails to like neurosurgeons all over New York City. Just cold. I got like 2 responses. And my fiance now, who was at the time my girlfriend, was interviewing for medical school. She interviewed at NYU, and she met one of the neurosurgeons there who was a Black neurosurgeon. And she was like, hey, you need to see if you can connect with this guy. And then it just so happened that he happened to respond. And after that, man, it led to like a great relationship. And since then, since hearing that from her, it kind of watered a seed in me to continue to pursue mentorship heavily. And that's like one of the biggest things that I think I have going for myself. And something that I try to encourage, like pretty much all like the pre-meds, med students that I talk to have mentorship. And it doesn't have to be like one mentor. Oh, just because you want to do family medicine, you need a family medicine mentor. Or in my case, neurosurgery, you need a neurosurgery mentor. No, it can be, you know, you can have mentors from different facets for different things. Like all my mentors are not doctors. You know, I have mentors in my spiritual life. I have mentors from like really all walks of life, you know, and I connect with them on a regular basis. And it's really been helpful because this one Bible verse that always sticks with me is that, and I'm just paraphrasing it. It's like a proverb that says like wise decisions are made in the abundance of good counsel, or something like that, right? And I kind of took that to heart. So I think that one thing that she said to me, like, get a mentor, stuck. It stuck. And it played a big role in me getting into medical school, doing well in medical school, thank God. And hopefully doing well in the match at the end of this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. That's probably the same thing that I tell when people ask me, hey, what's the one thing I can do? So I'm happy she gave you that bit of advice, because mentorship is a game changer. It's a legit game changer. Having the one right person, I mean, let alone if you end up getting 3, 4, 5, but even having the one right person in your life to kind of put you on that pathway, complete game changer. So now you were not born here in United States, were you? Tell me about your upbringing. Where are you coming from for your upbringing?
Originally born in Guyana, South America. I lived there for about 10 years.
What's the race breakdown, the demographics like down there?
So mostly Black and Indian. Okay. Black, Indian, East Asian. Yeah, that's the majority. Like maybe like 40-something% Black, and then 40-something% Indian, East Asian, and then a mix of others. I could be wrong, but I'm sure I'm in the ballpark. So yeah, grew up in Guyana, did like my primary school in there, and then I immigrated to Barbados with my mom.
So tell me, why Guyana? Who in your family's from Guyana, and then what led to the Barbados move?
All my family, all like my immediate family, dad's from Guyana, born and raised. Mom's from Guyana, born and raised. So just born and raised in Guyana. And then we kind of like moved to Barbados for like a better job on my mom's side. And I did high school in Barbados. So I kind of claim both because I spent maybe like a little bit over 7 years in Barbados as well. And then right after that, that's when I immigrated to the United States and did undergrad here.
And so at this time, did you know because you mentioned you've been interested in neuroscience for a while. When did that interest come? Was it way back when you were a kid, like in Guyana or Barbados?
It was early. I always knew it was going to be medicine. And another thing that my mom always instilled in me was like reading. She wanted me to read a lot, and in Guyana, growing up in Guyana, there really wasn't a lot of other things to do. Like today, technology are at our fingertips. It wasn't like that when I was growing up in Guyana. We had like I think maybe 2 TV channels, and on one channel wasn't anything I was interested in as a kid. The other channel, cartoons, and it only came on at like a certain time of day, So it was all like getting out and hanging out with friends and whatnot. But the other thing was books.
Before Netflix.
Yeah, no Netflix, right? And then if you had cable, you were balling. So reading was like a big thing, and I really like loved to read.
Do you still love to read? Did that carry on with you or no?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like during like first year of med school, I used to read like a book a month. It slowed down more recently, but I still get through at least like within a year. I'm sure I'm gonna get through like maybe like 5, 6 books.
Favorite book?
I really like to. Tough, man, tough. There's a couple of books I really like. Let's see. A good book I read recently would be Gray Matter, which is by a neurosurgeon, and I really liked it. And I hope I'm not confusing it with another one, because I read a lot of neurosurgeon memoirs, because he talks a lot about his spirituality and how that impacted his practice and how he kind of wove it into his practice. So I really like that book. I also really like The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. That was a life-altering book. And it holds a special place in my heart because I read it at the same time as my now fiance. And that book is a big deal for us. But man, lots of books. When I was a kid, Hardy Boys. It was all about Hardy Boys. I had like garbage bags of of Hardy Boys.
And so it's fascinating because I always think about like math, right? So I push my kids to try to do well and everything. But I'm like, hey, you guys got to know your math. But I'm seeing a lot of people I interview here on this podcast who are going to be neurosurgeons like you, right? People who are doing really well. A lot of them say that it started with reading as a child. I had Dr. McDade on here. Was he last week? I think. And he was like reading. Like people say, hey, reading was a thing that got me going. And it's funny because I wasn't a reader growing up. I'm a reader now. I read a lot now, but as a kid I wasn't. But it's good hearing you all kind of give me the secrets in terms of what I need to be doing with my kids.
Yeah, and really, it's not only about books that like we think would be really educational. It's really just like just reading, just building like that imagination. When I was reading like even like the Hardy Boys or other fiction books, like I really like Call of the Wild and White Fang and all of those like really good books. Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. It's like I could see myself. Your imagination like really grows. You get to think of yourself being wherever you're reading about. But back to the original question. Was neurosurgery always there? I would say, yeah. It was always medicine very early on. And I did have like an interest in like how things worked, particularly as it relates to like the nervous system. I was like super curious person, like about how things work. And another thing that kind of hit me was when I was growing up in Guyana, there were 0 neurosurgeons. There's one neurosurgeon in Guyana now, and I believe he's been there can't be more than 4 or 5 years that he's been there.
So you say it kind of hit you, but you didn't know that when you were in Guyana.
That it was going to be neurosurgery?
No, you didn't know that there were no neurosurgeons there, did you?
I did because like I've had like friends or even relatives who had like neurosurgical issues, but they just had to like live with it or try to like raise money to somehow get funding to go overseas to get up.
So at 10 years old, you were aware of all that stuff.
Yeah. So it was always going to be neurosurgery. Then when I moved to Barbados, someone at church, I told them, I think I want to be a brain surgeon. And they're like, oh, have you ever read Gifted Hands by Ben Carson? And me, love to read books. I was like, no, wrote it down, went to the bookstore, loved going to the bookstore. When we got to Barbados, the bookstore, listen, we would go to the supermarket. So at the time it was called Big B. It's called something else now. We would go to the supermarket in Barbados, but the supermarket also had a bookstore attached. And when my mom's shopping, I'm in the bookstore. Guess what? I don't have to buy the book. I can sit down, read the book in the bookstore, right? Get through it, or at least know where I'm at.
To a library.
Come back. Exactly. It's like a library, or it was like a library. It's exactly what it was. So, wrote down, Gifted Hands by Ben Carson, and then the rest is history. I read his book, and then I read Think Big, and it was just like, oh wow, okay, this is what I've been thinking about. This is what I want to do. So it was just heightened, or my interest in like neurosurgery just like heightened through reading. And then in high school, I really enjoyed my science classes and whatnot. And then in undergrad, first semester, I decided to go to CUNY Queens College, because it was the only CUNY school that had a neuroscience major at the time.
So let me think about this. So you went from Barbados came to the States, right? So what made you even want to come do your education in the States?
I honestly started sort of med school for maybe like a few months back. I went back to Guyana for a little bit, right? Started med school for a few months.
And that's like one of those 6-year English system type of programs where you do undergrad and med school together?
Yeah, but I always, like I said, at that time, I knew I wanted to do neurosurgery. And I through research and kind of think through it and talking through it, I realized if I want to do neurosurgery, ultimately, I'm going to probably need to train in the States because that's where best neurosurgery training is. So it was like, why not just go straight to come to America and start studying now rather than later? Fortunately, my dad was in the military in the US, and I was able to get citizenship very early on. So I only spent a few months in Guyana at medical school, and then, which was appealing to me because over there you don't have to do like a bachelor's before you start medicine. Yeah. So for me, it was like, oh, I could be finished quicker. And it was actually a really tough decision for me to decide to come to America and do my undergrad, because at that time I was thinking, oh, it's going to be a huge step back. I have friends right now who are working as doctors, right? All over the world, who, I probably would have been, if I stayed, probably would have been doing the same thing and stuff. But I decided that if I want to get really good training, I need to train here. And the pathway would be, it's already competitive, at that time, even more competitive now to get into neurosurgery. And I just realized the pathway would be better if I started. I just came to my undergrad, did med school here, and then back to neurosurgery.
So let me take a step back here. Because you seem like you were really, really focused from a very early age. So what kind of kid were you? A kid that already knew. And even before, let me take even a further step back. What made you even want to do medicine? Like, before Gifted Hands and all that stuff, what was the thing that made you say, what got you interested in medicine to begin with?
Yeah, it almost wasn't even like, to be honest, man, like, I'm not, it's like, from early on, it always was medicine. The other thing is, growing up in like the Caribbean countries, most of the time people would say, oh, you only have 3 options. You got to be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer, right? So I guess there was that in the back of my mind, but even at like 5, I just knew I was going to be a doctor. It's like, I want to be a doctor. I don't know if there was ever a time that it like flipped or clicked. It might have been influenced by the fact that my mom, she's a nurse midwife, so I kind of saw that all the time. My dad, he's a naturopath. Even though I didn't grow up with him, I also saw that a lot of the time. So I definitely had like those influences. And then kind of seeing like a lot of gaps growing up in Guyana in terms of the way like medical care is delivered and medical access. I'm sure like they all kind of work together to just be like medicine, but it wasn't like one time where it was just, oh, I'm going to be a doctor.
You felt like it was a calling of some sort.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, and then prior to this, so you said you didn't grow up with your dad. How did that impact your development? I don't know if he was involved in your life or not, I don't know, but how did that impact your development? With your academics, your focus, the decisions you made, things of that sort?
No, significantly. At a young age, you don't know what's going on. My mom, she was on it. She was on it. Academic, she never let me slip. She, like, I would get home and then she'd be like, do you have any homework? Do you have this? And literally, like, we'd sit and we'd do it, like, right there, like, every day. So academics never faltered. And even though I didn't grow up with my dad, he was always like really supportive, and he would visit. Wednesdays became my favorite day because he would always visit on Wednesdays. And
so he was in the same city?
No, area. I was in Linden, Guyana, and he was in Georgetown, which is the capital. So it's like an hour and change away drive. And his primary work was in the capital, and I grew up in Linden. So, but he would come visit like on Wednesdays, and you have business in Linden on Wednesdays.
Did you have any distractions as a child? Anything that might have been pulling you away from medicine, like crazy friends or, I don't know, siblings or anything? I don't know.
I mean, yes and no. They're always there. I have to say, I think my mom particularly, and like my family, did a really good job of like instilling certain values in me. So even though certain things were there, I never like really wanted to dabble. But the opportunity certainly was there. You know what I mean? Like I have friends who, were doing things that certainly weren't legal, but they knew, I almost, as I'm thinking about it now, I feel like they knew that I was focused on becoming a doctor and they respected it. So we were still friends, but they wouldn't encourage me to do what they were doing. Or like they'll come around, like I'll come around and be like, oh, it's Joe, let's not, So it was around, but I was never like, I was cool with people, but I was never like really interested in kind of dabbling. I had other distractions. I really like video games, I'll never forget my auntie or grandma, I should say. She was living in America at the time. And every year we used to look forward to getting like barrels shipment of like food and goods and whatnot. One time she sent me a Game Boy.
Uh-oh.
Man, I loved video games. The thing that was interesting though, batteries were like really expensive, right? But just to kind of like talk about how curious I was, I saw people like plug in. I had to be maybe like 8, 9 years old. And I would see people plug in like phones or plug in whatever and charge things, right? Batteries were way too expensive. So what did I do? I found like an old charger. I think it was a phone charger. Cut like the end of the wires, frayed the wires, right? Got 2 batteries. Definitely probably not safe, right? I don't know where the idea came from. Got 2 batteries, put it in my Game Boy, and then I put one wire on one end of the battery, the other on the other end of the battery, and I realized if I plugged it in, I could have like full power as long as I stayed plugged in. And
Did it work?
It did work. It did work. I played for
That's why you're gonna be a brain surgeon.
Without batteries. Without batteries, man. It's like I think back to it now, I was like, whoa, where did that idea even come from?
Oh, let me put a disclaimer here. Nobody try that at home. Nobody try that. Don't try that. Don't try that and say, hey, I got that from Dr. Dale's Black Men and White Coats. This guy named Joe.
We had like this open like switch and the wires were coming out and some of my friends would touch it and be like, oh, you can feel the shock. And if you stand up barefoot, we learned that if you had on like your slippers, your rubber slippers, you might not feel it. But if you take your shoes off and you stand up on the ground barefoot, you might feel you might feel a little jolt. So it's all these principles of physics that we didn't even know that we were kind of learning about practically in the field, right?
Man, that's good. That's good, man. That curiosity. But the reason I was going into the family life is such good. I want for the single dad, single mother, whoever people listen to it, I want to use you as an example to say, hey, you can. People are out there doing it. You're doing a great job raising your kids and getting your kids to, Joe, you're not the only one, right? There's, a lot of single moms or single dads, people who are doing this. And it's not to say that it's not hard. It's not to say it's not challenging, but, have hope or take hope in the fact that, people are doing it and successfully helping your kids get into medicine. And I say that because, one of the books I've written is How to Raise a Doctor. And a woman several years ago sent me a message after she saw some of the stuff we're doing, Black Men and White Coats. So, hey, Dr. Dale, I've got a young African-American boy. I'm a single mother. He wants to be a doctor. Help me. How do I do this? So it's good to hear, like, hey, parents are doing it, like parents are out there doing it.
So you don't until after the fact, you think back and you realize you put 2 and 2 together. And it's like, wow. Yeah. She was going, but she was making still making sacrifices, making it work.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy, but sometimes what you got to do for your kids, or not sometimes. That's what you have to do for your kids, So let's fast forward down. I kind of got you off track before you were telling me Queens College. So you get to Queens College. Sounds like you're plugged in with MAPS. That's Minority Association of Pre-Med Students or Pre-Health Students. I never remember. Little brother, sister chapter of organization of the Student National Medical Association. So everybody go check out SNMA, Student National Medical Association. But so what was college like for you? You get there, what did you decide to major in?
Neuroscience. So right, that's what I was saying. I knew I wanted to do neurosurgery. I was like, oh, maybe I should do a neuroscience major. Queens College was the only CUNY that had a neuroscience major at the time that I was applying. Interesting story, man. Real quick. Of to show like just don't take no for an answer, right? I didn't get accepted to Queen's College. So the way it worked when you're applying to CUNY is you apply to multiple CUNYs and you rank them and you get assigned one. So I ranked them. Obviously, Queens was my top choice. I was living in Queens at the time with my aunt. And I think I got accepted to Brooklyn College. So didn't get accepted to Queens. I'm like, this is not going to work. Brooklyn College doesn't have my neuroscience major. So what I do the very next day, I got all my files, put on a nice, shirt and tie. I was fresh off the boat, man. Like just here, right? Showed up to Queens College admissions office. I sat down. Like, hey, can I help you? I just like to speak with like whoever's the director of admissions. He's like, okay, it's gonna be some time. Sat there, waited. Came again. They're like, yeah, who are you waiting for? The director of admissions. And I mean, I guess at that point I was waiting for a while. So they probably felt bad. I was like, okay, let me get the person. Person shows up. They're like, hi, how may I help you? Introduce myself. I'm Joseph, blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay, what can I do for you, Joseph? I'm like, listen, I would just like you to tell me. I'm pulling out all my files, right? I came over here, I did the SATs, I did pretty good, okay? I did really well on the SATs, did everything. I applied here, I didn't get accepted. I just want you to tell me why not. So he goes through my files, he's like, you did pretty good. Honestly, I can't tell you why you weren't accepted. I was like, okay, well, would I be able to start at Queen's College next semester? He's like, honestly, yeah. Consider it done. He shook my hand. He's like, welcome to Queen's College. I was like,
serious?
Yeah, man. Not even making it up. Listen, I needed to get that neuroscience major, man. So I'll never forget one of my
talk about.
He says, we know this, when one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah.
And then he goes, but not all closed doors are shut. So he told me that even before I got here, and it stuck with me. So sometimes you hear no, and it's like, let's see. Let's see. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, that's cool. That's super cool, man.
But you asked what college was like for me. It was awesome. It definitely was a bit of a culture shock, coming here. The access is different. There's just like a lot more resources, a lot like broader or more diverse ethnicities.
How'd you take that? What'd you think about that?
Man, honestly, Dr. Dale, at the time, I was just like, I need to get to medical school. I was aware of things going on around me, but I was just like head down. Wow. I was just like, no, I need to,
So how old were you when you came?
I had to be maybe 18, 19.
So that's impressive. I love when you see young people who are so focused like that, right? Because a lot of people, it takes them a few years to kind of get this stuff figured out. But you knew from that early age, and then when you got here, I mean, you got yourself into college that had denied you already, and you came here just focused, and you just made it happen. That's impressive. You don't see that too often, right? So you're different, in a good way, right? So shout out, kudos to you on that. What was the most challenging part of your undergrad years?
Couple of challenges. One of them would be knowing what to do, like knowing what path to take, which is where mentorship comes in. Very, very early on. As soon as I came to America, I started going to church. Unfortunately, my local church pastor's wife worked at Queen's College. And she actually got me my first job where I was tutoring students while I was in college. And in addition to that, she connected me to one of my dearest mentors, Miss PA. She connected me to Miss PA, who at the time was mentoring multiple, she was just mentoring students from all walks of life, not just pre-med students, but all kinds of students with all kinds of interests, sorry. And she also was at the time head of MAPS, or kind of I don't know if to call it liaison, but faculty advisor for MAPS, and SOMS, which is another science organization of minority students. Connected me with Miss PA, who helped to solve one of the first challenges, which was knowing what to do. When I got here, I literally just took classes, didn't take any breaks, didn't do any volunteering, didn't do any research. Just my schedule was booked straight through summer. I think I did in my first year, I did like a lot of credits. I can't remember how many it was, but it was like 20 something, 24, 25 the first semester, 24 about the same second semester, and then like 10-ish or more in the summer. She was like, listen, this, I can see you're motivated, but there's things you're gonna have. That was one. Some classes were also challenging. Organic chemistry 2, bane of me.
How'd you do in it?
Bro, first time I took Orgo, failed Orgo 2. Yeah. Granted, and there's some truth to it. I had received advice from some people and I didn't listen. They were like, listen, you don't want to take this class with this person. Just trust me, you don't. And I had friends who went to other schools the same time I was taking Orgo to take Orgo. Right? I'm like, isn't that serious?
Just to get away from it.
Not that deep. But I think like I was just doing, which is another thing. I was doing like a lot at once. And like I was doing like, at that time I was doing like research, I was volunteering, I was shadowing, I was like taking like a lot of credits. And first time I took Orgo 2, man, failed. But the second time,
how'd you do Orgo 1?
Orgo 1, I think I got like an A, or it was probably like an A or like a B plus, between a B plus and an A. I can't remember what it was.
But you did all right in Orgo 1, but then Orgo 2 just kind of slapped you.
Yeah, mostly everything else like in undergrad, pretty good. Like, but it was just Orgo 2, man. Orgo 2 was the bane of me. But which kind of impacted like my application cycle. But it was a good. It's not good to fail classes, man, but it was a good experience. It was a good
growth.
Like yo, you're not invincible. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like, bro, you're not. You're gonna have to stay on top of things. You know what I mean? You gotta listen to people, and you gotta be able to assess yourself better. Like assess like when certain things would need more attention. Like we've all been there, and I tutored like a lot of undergrads in sciences and also for the MCAT and whatnot. We've all been there where we focus on the things that we like and the things that we're good at. I think at the time I was taking like either I was taking like a biology class and I was taking like physics 2 or something like that. And I was like, I was loving it. And I was taking some other courses, I'm studying for physics, I'm doing all the problems, but I'm neglecting Orgo, but let me not go into that too much. It was a good experience. I kind of like realized like, yo, you got to have more self-awareness, and you also got to know when to ask for help. I mean, that's something that I had a hard trouble with earlier on, not asking for help. It was always like, nah, you hear like on your own. Yes, even though it was plugged in, it was always like, nah, you need help. Yeah. But it was a hit. I won't call it like that big of a hit because like, it was like one. I was not gonna let one grade mess with my psyche too much, but obviously I didn't want to minimize it. But again, mentorship, I stayed plugged in.
Yeah, good advisors.
I had really good advisors who just helped me come around, do better next time. Worked on other parts of my application. I was like, yo, you need to pick this up, pick that up, and overcame. I can't remember what I got the second time. I think maybe it was like a B or B plus or something like that. But passed Orgo 2 the second time, and did really well. I was like, you know what, you're gonna need to do really well on the MCAT. I set a goal for my MCAT score and got that goal. And
do you do any how'd you do that? Were you just so locked into prep courses and stuff like that?
I didn't do any prep courses. Like I just
locked in.
Locked in. just locked in.
So tell me, let's fast forward to med school. What was the biggest surprise when you got to med school? Was it kind of what you thought it would be, or was there something just kind of wowed you?
Classmates were nice. I wasn't expecting class to be that cool, to be honest. I met like I met a lot of people in medical school that I know I'm going to be friends with, God willing, like forever.
Yeah.
Made a lot of really good connections. I didn't really see that. Didn't expect that. I thought I might have like one good buddy. But
everybody always thinks that med school is going to be like this backstabbing, cutthroat type of environment. What people who don't go to med school, what they don't realize is med school, for a lot of people, for me included, is like one of the most fun times of your life, man.
Good times. It's times. I mean, you certainly have your moments where it's like where it's really tough, really rough. But overall, yeah, that was definitely the most important thing. Like just the people, and the people particularly in my class. I didn't expect that, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I graduated med school over 10 years ago now, and same people, a lot of those same people. I mean, I've had conversations with some of them within this past month, and not just like one or two, but quite a few of them, so keeping in touch with them. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I went out more in med school than I did in undergrad. It's not even close.
Yeah,
I kicked it way more in med school than undergrad.
But I can say that I feel like med school has been easier than undergrad, in some ways, because I feel like in undergrad, unfortunately, sometimes you do have to check some boxes, and I feel like my efforts were more like spread out. I was doing a lot of like different things. Med school is a bit more focused. I feel like every year of med school, I just get closer and closer to like what I want to do. The content, I feel like the classes aren't difficult. It's just like a lot,
The fire hydrant, yeah.
It feels easier. I'm not gonna lie. And then, yeah, you're gonna do what you really love. When I started third year, man.
So tell me about this. We're talking about this earlier on. Tell me about the clinical rotations. You want to be a surgeon, right? What was your first OR experience like?
First OR experience. Okay, so literally like we're in the height of the pandemic, right? And that's when I started third year. Third year was supposed to start off for me with like 8 weeks of medicine, internal medicine. Mm-hmm. Because of the pandemic, we had to do some shuffling around, right? And we instead started with 4 weeks of electives. And by the time I was ready to start electives, the only things that were available there weren't a lot of things that I thought would be interesting to me, but then there were a couple surgery rotations. I ended up starting on thoracic surgery. I didn't think I wanted to do thoracics, but I was like, it'd be cool to start third year in the OR, see what the OR is like. Granted, I've been shadowing, but see it in a different light.
That's interesting, right? Because a lot of times they'll tell you not to start with the thing that you're interested in going into. So you want to be a surgeon.
Like the attendings, I mean, we could probably get to that. One of the attendings actually asked me, like, why did you start with, with thoracics, man? Like, why did you start with this? Usually people will do the general surgery rotation and then come to us. So that attending, man, I really like him. I'm actually trying to reach out to him and talk to him at some point to let him know the impact he had. My first day, right? The residents are showing me around. Oh, yeah, nice to meet you. I'll take you down to the OR. I get to the OR. I never scrubbed in my life. I didn't do there's usually like a orientation before your actual surgery rotation of like how to scrub, a lot of different things. I didn't do that because it was just like this elective. Man, people are realizing I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, just got to know how to scrub. You know what I mean? The attending sends, fortunately, there was a fourth year sub-I student, sends a sub-I out to help me scrub. Okay, I scrub. Now I come in and have my hands up, dripping. So the attending's in there, he goes, what's your glove size? I'm like, man, I haven't been making the best impression up to this point. So, I say it with my chest. I go, mediums. The entire OR starts laughing, man. I'm like, what's going on? But I'm like, nah, I'm going to keep it up. Yeah. I got the face on like, yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, mediums.
Let me pause for the people who never been in the OR, right? So gloves don't go by small, medium, large, right? Gloves go by number. So you're like a 7, 8, whatever. Not all right. So anybody in medicine will hear that and be like, "What in the world are you talking about, mediums?" We're not talking about snow gloves or something like that, man.
Yeah. When the attending looks at me, I'm telling you, this time I'm like, nah. I got a straight face. I'm like, I'm medium. He's like, you know what? It's a good answer. And he's like, let me see your hands. So he estimates my glove size, and he estimated pretty much right on the dot. So I get in, right? I get into the I'm scrubbed in now. He tells me where to put my hands and whatnot. And he goes, so what are we doing today? Dale, again, this was day 1 of third year. I took step 1 literally like 2 days prior, right? Didn't know what I was getting myself into. I'm like, He's like, you're scrubbed in, touching this patient, and you don't know what you're doing. Then he looks at the fellow. What are we doing today? The fellow tells him what's going on. So clearly, at this point, you would realize that the attending knows that I don't know what's going on. Okay. Proceeds to ask me again. So why are we doing this? Like, bro, you just heard it. I didn't even know what we were doing. You didn't ask me why are we doing this? Fumbling, right? Throughout the procedure. He keeps pimping me, right? Which is a term that we use like in medical school for like residents or attendings or anybody to really just ask you questions, right? He's pimping me. Okay, what is this? What's that? What's this? Listen, I got slaughtered, right? On that first case. And I had like three more cases with him for the rest of the day. Man, we finished the day. He goes, Joseph, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I want you to follow all these patients, do all the post-op checks on these patients, and get the notes into me. I'll see you tomorrow. After Dale, tell you, I had 2 weeks with this guy. I didn't work with him for like 3-4 days. Some other time, I'm like in the residence room chilling. We're signing out. He hadn't seen me since that first day, right? Mm-hmm. He walks by the resident room. He sees me. I see him pass. Okay. He comes back. Joe, come here. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, tell me about the patients we operated on Monday. Shoot, what? I can't. He's like, yeah, let's go to their rooms. Present them to me. And then, are there any other patients that you saw? You present them all to me. So this guy, some people
he just randomly saw you.
He's walking by with people. Yeah. Room. He's like, Joe. So some people, just for context, some people didn't really like him a lot. He's known to be like hard, but I got to tell you, after that rotation, the final day of the rotation, first of all, by the second week, I was ready for him. I prepared really well. I knew exactly what was going on. I knew all the cases. I was ready. I didn't even let him ask me questions. He'd be doing something and be like, oh, is this so and so and so? He'd be taking like a biopsy and like, oh, so we're gonna see such and such, right? That's what we're expecting, right? I was ready for him for the second week. Last day of the second week, he gave me a talk. He was like, listen, I really like you. I think you did really well here. I don't think surgery is a space for you to be like timid. I need you to speak up. You know your stuff, but you need to let people know. Like if you don't let me know or let someone else know what you're doing, no one's gonna know. People are not really gonna go look and check. It's like, for example, like I was dropping notes on like every single patient I saw, right? And he was like, you need to find a way to let people know that you're working. Otherwise, people are not gonna know you're working. But I say all that to say that experience, that's how I started first year. I was like, whoa, right? But I am very grateful to him because after that, I was never caught slipping. Like if I'm walking into a patient room, like I know, like, yeah, I'm ready. I know exactly what's going on. If I'm scrubbing into a case, come on, gotta know a lot. You know what I mean? So I feel like he was a really good way to start third year. And even though he was kind of like hard on me at the beginning, I feel like he was invested. I feel like he took extra time, to pay attention to me. And it started off funny, started off hard, but I think there were like a lot of little things I learned from him, a lot of lessons I learned from that I was able to carry now into my core rotations for the rest of third year. And I think that helped me do like really well, like on my in certain aspects on my clinical rotations.
That's huge, man. I had a guy like that when I was a resident, though. I'm in my ICU. I do ICU now, pulmonary critical care medicine. And I had an ICU attending. I didn't know I wanted to do ICU when I started residency. I had a guy's name was Mark Branch. It was a Duke, Mark Branch. And man, he would rip into me every day, like just rip like in front of everybody. Who just start yelling at me, like, "Why would you do that decision?" He was an old military guy, and it was a basketball player. He had like some record. I forget what school he went to, but a really good basketball player back in the day, like military. He would just rip into me. And the end of the rotation, I remember him. He was like, "Dale," he was like, "I'm doing this because I see greatness in you. Like, this is going to be good." But probably the same type of thing you got, right? And just kind of like let you know, like, hey, I'm hard on the ones I think are going to be good. And lo and behold, right, I ended up going to pulmonary critical care, and a big part of it probably because, that guy, right? So those things are huge. Hey, look, let's I want to wrap this up. Before I wrap it up, a couple more things. One question, and then some other types of I'm gonna give you kind of last words type of stuff. So you brought up the spiritual thing multiple times. It's funny, I talk about this a lot. Like, I never know anybody's spiritual background before they come on the show, whatever. But tell me, how does your faith impact what you do, and the role you see for yourself and people's lives, while here on this here earth?
Massively, right? Like, faith is like a huge part of who I am, a huge part of everything I do, huge part of my interactions with like patients, huge part of like everything that I do in medicine. I always pray before I see patients, even if like I'm not at the point where like I will like ask patients to pray or anything like that, unless they ask me. But I always pray before I see patients, before I talk to patients. I always, like, when I'm in the OR, I pray. Like, I pray to myself, for everything. Like, I goes on OB nights, the last few rotations, every delivery, every time I touch a patient, pray for them, right? And that's just like, I was, my mom, like, just raised me like that. We would always, like, she'd read like all these Bible stories, take me to church. And then I believe maybe when I was like in my mid-teens, because sometimes you're kind of like just going through the motions, doing what your parents do. But I feel like sometime in my mid-teens, I decided to like decide for myself, like, you need to figure out this faith thing. Like, you can't just be doing it just because, your parents are doing it or you're told to do it. And you can't just choose to be this like Christian or type Christian just because everybody else is doing it. So that's when I think like my relationship with God grew a lot, because I started reading. Like, that same kind of like effort I had reading other books, I put it into like reading the Bible and reading and learning more like about my faith and about God. And since then, like, I made like a concerted like decision to like, everything I do, God first or God only. And so now, man, I've seen God do like a lot of really good, like a lot of amazing things in my life. He's brought me through like a lot of amazing things. He brought me through like life and death situations as well. He's like, he continues to like bless my family. And so I kind of try, I like every time when I'm leaving to head to work, I pray a prayer to like just in some way that, God sort of like shines through you. This is the prayer I pray like before I walk onto the wards. And then actually sometimes, like patients will say things or they'll notice things. And it's like, hey, you seem like a person of faith. Or sometimes like I'll wear like certain bands. I'm not always wearing them, and like patients will see them and then I might say, hey, are you like a Christian or whatever? Would you mind praying with me? So I'm at the point where, if a patient kind of asks, I'll go there. And then a lot of times I'm working on, more kind of asking patients about their faith, like when you get in like history, because faith and spirituality is a big part of who people are. And even if we're not of the same faith, it's important to understand that, because it could play a really huge part in understanding the patient, and also a really huge part in their care. So I'm just trying to find ways to kind of keep it woven into medicine. The funny thing is, it's almost like really taboo in medicine. Yeah. It's almost frowned upon to have faith. I've noticed that in medicine. And that's really unfortunate. We're so like science, we're all about the data says, data this, and less about faith and things we can't see, and that aren't proven by the trials and whatnot. So sometimes it seems like, if you're talking about faith, you're not as educated. At least that's how it looks like to me. It looks like that might be the image.
It definitely does come across like that. And faith, the Bible talks about faith is the evidence of things unseen, right? So it's not the faith is not science, but I mean, science comes from a lot of stuff that are in the spiritual world, or whatever. but as faith is as described as, it's not blind faith. People think faith is blind faith. It's not blind faith. There's reason to it. There's rationale to it. Evidence of things unseen. But I definitely know what you mean. It is taboo. Today I had the opportunity to pray with the patients, critically ill patient, because the wife, as an ICU doctor, we see there's a lot of chaplains and my line of work, right? A lot of death and things of that sort that you see sometimes. And patients will ask for prayers, but that family members ask for prayer. So today was the opportunity I had to do that with a family as well. I agree with you. It's important to know somebody's faith, and it's important that if you're the same faith, that you have that ability to share that with them. And if you're not of the same faith, you have the ability to say, "Hey, I respect you in your faith there," or whatever. That's huge. So I think the spiritual history, like you said, I think that's a huge thing for people's faith. But it's fascinating because I never know what anybody's faith is on this podcast ahead of time. But it's funny to me that people I see who are doing such great things, so many of them are people of faith, of strong spirituality, at least within the Black community. I just find it very fascinating because I never know, but time after time after time, it seems to be almost the same story.
And it's not always like solemn, man. It's a lot of fun. I'm like I think my faith adds like a lot of like good vigor to my education.
Oh yeah.
It adds a lot of like good color and a lot of it's just like very substantive as well. I can't imagine going through this without my faith.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's definitely not all just like sadness and bad things like that, right? It's a life. It's joy. It's joy, and it's the joy and the love, everything. And for me, it's really what drives me every day. All things to the glory of God. It's what drives me in the sense of one. And I wouldn't say, I don't know if you have to, I wouldn't say you have to have faith for this, right? But for me personally, this is what makes me want to do my very best for every single patient, every single time, just knowing that I'm that I'm representing to that level. Hey, so I want to wrap it up by asking you to give yourself advice. So what would you tell your high school self? What, one sentence, if you had to go back to your high school self, one piece of advice, one sentence, what would that sentence be?
Okay. One sentence. You can't do it all by yourself. You can't do it all alone. Definitely try to find mentors in like multiple areas very early on, and stay true to your faith, stay true to yourself, and try to leave a lasting positive impression on like those that you meet. And I know this is a long sentence.
Definitely a run-on sentence.
There's a run-on sentence. We'll have to edit it later. And just cherish your family, man. Time's precious. Cherish your family. Cherish your time with them, and make like all those experiences memorable. When you're spending time with them, spend time with them.
That's huge. I talk to I do a lot of teaching. I take pride in teaching and such. So I was teaching my residents today. But I sat down, I said, look, I'm not going to teach you guys about medicine specific today. I'm going to teach you guys about life, right? So I talks about life. I talks about the F. So I said, hey, these things are important. Family, friends, fun, finances, and faith. So we sat down and we just talked about those things. I said, you guys have to realize that you want to be more than doctors, right? You want to be able to have real impact on people's lives, patients, and beyond the walls of the patient. So that advice you just gave to your high school self, we need to be giving that same advice to the young doctors. Because once you get, and you'll experience this, Joe, when you get in residency, man, it's so easy to get so bogged down in the weeds of medicine, and you lose the big picture, right? You lose the big picture. When you lose the big picture, I think it impacts patient care. I think that's what makes some doctors kind of, sometimes doctors are kind of don't seem as sensitive as possible. I think it's because we start to lose that big picture. Hey, but Joe, look, man, hey, really appreciate you taking the time. It's late. I know you're on the East Coast, man. So what time is it, man? It's getting,
what is it?
10:30 over there, man. 10:30 over there. But I appreciate the time. You're a standout student. rooting for you in this neurosurgery world. We need some brain docs like you. And I'm not talking about black men. I'm talking about just some people who I believe are of good character and such, and who want to go the extra mile for success. If you're willing to bust in the director of admissions office and get yourself into Queens College, I'm pretty sure you're willing to go the extra mile for your patients, and we appreciate that, man. To all the listeners out there, thank you so much for rocking with Black Men in White Coats. Do me a huge favor, click that subscribe button. So now we record these videos, we put them on YouTube. So go to our YouTube channel. We'll put the link down below somewhere. Hit the subscribe button. We're trying to grow the channel. So do us a favor if you like what we're doing. Subscribe. That's you guys saying, hey, you guys keep on making more of these videos. We're going to put a bunch of links down below. Check them out for the pre-meds. Check out PreMedMondays.com. We do a mastermind group on Monday evenings, and I send you guys weekly videos. And of course, if you want your MCAT paid for, blackmeninwhitecoats.org/MCAT. Love you guys, man. We'll see you next time.